This is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, Jeremy Rutherford, and Jeff Burton on 101 ESPN.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for free inspection.
Well, looky here. It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast, and it is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters, your St. Louis roofing expert. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Donnie Fandango joined here in the Jeff Burton studios by Alex Ferrario from 101 ESPN.
All right.
Also, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic joining us as well. Guys, I had a really wonderful surprise last night. So I watched the first period of the game at a friend's house. And then I had to go back home, and so I was getting in the car literally just as the second period was beginning, and you'll never guess whose sultry tones were spitting out the play-by-play for the Blues and the Carolina Hurricanes last night.
Chris Kerber. Alex Ferrario.
This guy. And also, too, you know, man, listen, one of my sports love started because of Jack Buck and Mike Shannon and Dan Kelly and listening to those guys on an almost religious type basis. Mm-hmm. And so, Alex, when I hear you do that play-by-play, and I know that it has been months since you have done a game, and I would assume that being good at that job, you have got to really get into like a rhythm of everything. Brother, you sounded great.
Oh, man, I appreciate it.
You sounded great.
I appreciate it because you know how you beat yourself up?
Of course.
Like the moment, so I didn't know, like Curbs' voice is a lot of talking, it's acting up on him. And so he texted me yesterday afternoon and he was like, hey, there's a chance I might need you, but we'll just play it by ear. And I said, cool, I'll be ready no matter what. I'm not worried about it. So I had a little extra prep into my day. And then when I get to the rink, he doesn't really say anything. He's okay. And so I'm not going to pressure. And then in the first period, I'm actually sitting up next to JR.
I remember this.
And I get the text that says, you're up for the second. And I'm like, oh, God. So, luckily I don't get as nervous about it anymore now that I've done it a little bit more. But you're right. Like, I mean, play-by-play was my passion. Like, that's what I wanted to get into. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, career took me in a different direction, and I love where I'm at. Podcasting, yes, obviously, with you two. With you two. That's where I live for. But, I still, it sounds weird to say, I still practice play-by-play at home. Like, I'll put on NHL video games and turn it on mute and just do play-by-play with it. Because, you want to keep the tools sharpened. Yeah. But when you put the headset on in a game, it does take me like 10 to 15 minutes to get into rhythm because I'll stumble over my words a little bit and it's like, okay, get into the flow of this. And then once you get going, and I'll be damned, the second period, 3 minutes in, a goal is scored.
Yeah.
Like, no! And then 4 minutes later, another goal is scored. And then another one. I'm like, what in the actual? So by the third period, when I'm feeling good, no goals go in. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So, but I am so appreciative anytime Curbs trusts me to put that headset on. It is still, little me has to pinch myself every once in a while when I'm doing that. But it was funny after the second period because Curbs told me you got the second. And so I wasn't assuming I was doing anything more. Second period ended and I'm just sitting there filling the book out. Curbs walked in and I turned and I go, you're not getting this headset back, Curbs. Joey goes, yeah, you're not putting this headset on. He goes, okay, fine by me. They're
great.
up. So,
hey, and I'm sitting here trying to picture Alex's house where Katie's going, hey, honey, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? The kids are starting to get on. He goes, burgering in the corner. 8 passes out, Buchnevich.
Or maybe he's play-by-play in dinner.
Oh, yeah, I play-by-play my kids. Adelaide in the corner screaming Emma with a right hook to the face.
Dude, and when the Blues scored that first goal, not only was I excited that the Blues scored, but I was excited that you got to call it. I was like, yeah, Blues, yeah! It's a combination of things,
I appreciate it, buddy. Again, every time I get to do it, it's like a dream come true because, play-by-play kind of took the back seat to getting to do on-air hosting and doing shows and pre and post. Like, that's where I've invested all of my work into, but I still keep that play-by-play tool sharpened just in case. And again, anytime I get the chance to do that, man, I am so blessed.
I tell you, one of the things that I joke about, but I'm not really joking about it. I am in this podcast with 2 exceptionally talented human beings.
Where's the other guy?
Yeah, I was going to say me. But.
JR, your ability to craft a story, to tell us what we need to know the questions to ask for maybe some things that we haven't even thought of. Man, I don't take that for granted, how good you are either. And I know you guys like to give me crap because you just like to give me crap about not reading JR's art. Stop it. But dude, not only do I love my athletic subscription, but I love what you do as well. And I just find myself incredibly lucky to be able to work with you.
How about the journalist himself over here when the whole goaltending stuff goes down on Chicago's Wednesday? This is the first guy to find out what happened.
Absolutely so.
All right, you guys keep going.
Yeah. How many minutes do you need?
25 minutes left.
25 more minutes? Oh my gosh. Okay. This is
now. What about the time
So I just wanted to give. I was just thinking about this last night as I was driving home. Not only listening to you, but I just find myself incredibly fortunate to be able to do this with you guys, because not only do we have a really great time, but even me as a fan, man, I learned so much from how you guys watch the game. And the thing that's amazing to me, man, is it's not overly complicated either. You know what I mean? It's just the eyes and the brain in which that you have. So all of that being said, it's been a pretty busy week in the land of the Blues. You had the Blues Hall of Fame ceremony happen on Monday, and I would just, you guys were both there. I would just kind of like to get a little feel for the event from you guys. JR, I heard you this morning on TMA, and you were talking about how when this ceremony first started, the guys that were being inducted were there, but now it seems like everybody's there, and this is really turning into a very special event for the Blues.
Yeah, it really is. They started this, I think, 4 years ago. I've been to 3 of them. They've all been great. Mike Caruso does a great job with this thing, and Randy Gersh. It's their project, and that's what I noticed Monday night was that, okay, it's not just, Bernie Federko and Chris Pronger that are here. This is Curtis Joseph coming back for the second year in a row. Here comes Mike Liute. He got inducted. Here comes Wayne Babbage.
Doug Waite. I haven't seen Doug Waite in years. And all of a sudden they were like, hey, Doug Waite's here tonight.
Yeah. So it's really turning into that. So it's gaining some traction for sure. And the other thing that I took away, Donnie, is that, when you sit down at your table number 5, by the way, Bobby
shout out.
How about that?
Oh, awesome.
Whenever I see that.
Did you demand to sit at table number 5?
Demand it.
They told JR he was at table 72, and he's like, I'm at 5.
Can you imagine JR demanding anything?
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, poor boy. But I know when I sit down that I'm going to come away with like 10 memories, or there's going to be 10 touching moments that night. And, I said this the other day, but I'll say it again, is that, I've heard Brett Hull talk about Kelly Chase's friend for hours on end, right? They've interviewed him about Kelly Chase. I've been around them when they're talking about each other, and I've never heard Brett Hull's voice crack with emotion talking about Kelly Chase. And we know the reason why, because of Kelly's battle. But for Brett to sit up on stage and talk about Kelly and just kind of lose it for a second, it just speaks to that bond. So that was a moment. But there were, many, many others where you just say, you know what, it goes beyond, winning a game, losing a game. This is a fiber of the city. This is the fiber of a fan base. And whether a lot of these people, organization, know each other over the years, they come, they go. A lot of them don't know each other. They're all pulled together by that logo. And that's what you leave thinking about when you attend that ceremony.
So I wasn't able to make it to this one. My babysitter fell through, so I watched it all on the Blues YouTube channel. And I mean, everybody did an outstanding job. I got choked up twice. Once was when Brett Hull was difficult getting through words with Kelly Chase.
It was really beautiful, actually.
And then they showed Tony Twist as well, of course, now friend of the podcast, and Twister's wiping his eyes. And it's like, my God, man. And then later on, when Steve Ott was talking about Steen, and he got choked up, and it's like, oh my, what's happening right now, guys? But I'll tell you the part, because there were so many great moments in that, not only with the Kelly Chase one, and it's just so good to hear him and the stories about him and how much those guys love him. Listening to Red Berenson and Gary Unger talk about Al Arbor and realizing, like, my God, we are soft listening to these guys and what they went through. But the part that really struck me was when Joey was talking to Steve Ott, and he asked him about Steen and just the player he was. And Steve Ott said, look up at those banners. He said, look in the eyes of Steen and Jackman. He said, those guys have a hunger to win every shift, every moment, make sure that every game is going to win. And I think Jackman joked around with Steen in one of those seasons where he said, like, every game was a 1-goal game. And that's just what they were doing. I hear Steen say that. I hear these guys talking about it. You know, Curbs was talking to Kelly Chase and Brett Hall about making sure that there was always effort for the guy next to you. You weren't playing for anybody other than your teammates. And I couldn't help but sit there and think, what are these 15 guys thinking from the current Blues roster sitting there? What are Jimmy Snuggerud and Jake Neighbors and Logan Mailloux and Otto Stenberg? What are they thinking? Hearing these guys talk about what it took to build a Stanley Cup championship, what it took to be a member of the St. Louis Blues, and what it still means to be a member of the St. Louis Blues. And I heard Oshie say this on the broadcast last night, to where he was talking with Ray Barilli, and Barilli had told him after the Hall of Fame ceremony, Otto Stenberg came up to him and said, man, I want to be a part of this. That is what you want as a Blues fan. And like that Hall of Fame ceremony was my era, right? Like Kelly Chase, I was 9 watching him and Tony Twist fight each other with Blues versus the Hartford Whalers. I loved Barrett Jackman when he came into the league. Alexander Steen, those seasons where they started to build something. That was my DNA of becoming a Blues fan. And so where this team's at now and having those players sit there, and I have to imagine what they were listening to had to leak into their mindset of, man, this is what we're missing this season. Can we find this and create this in our locker room?
I feel like some of those guys, though, pardon me, but one of the reasons I feel like they're here is because somebody sees that Blue Note already in them. You know what I mean? Somebody saw it in Snuggerud. Somebody saw it in Neighbors, you know?
Logan Mailloux.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys a question that you might not really be able to answer. And if this is something that you have answered before in an article or something, I apologize. But it is so... Obviously, I'm a Kelly Chase fan, and I have been a Kelly Chase fan. I can very much remember on the news when he got traded to Hartford. And I want to say I was watching Channel 5, and they had the Special Olympics kids that Chaser worked with, I believe, saying goodbye to him like at the airport. Yes. Yeah. And it was awful. Yeah. I mean, you know, you felt like a friend was getting traded. But all of these years go by, and I understand why Kelly Chase is a big deal for Blues fans, all right? But you hear all of these other star players talk about Chaser. Like I remember, and I want to say that it was Connor McDavid a few years ago where, you know, who have you met? Who have you talked to? And he said, I just had a chance to talk to Kelly Chase, and that was really something else. And so I'm fascinated to know, what is it about Chaser? Because it's not as though we put up a zillion frigging points. It's not as though he was even the greatest fighter of the era. He was a very good one, but it's not like he was what is it about this guy where he just endears himself seemingly to everyone that he's around?
Yeah, you're right. It was Connor McDavid. There's been many, many others. And, you know, the answer, I think, is a couple things. It's the personality. It's the willingness to help anybody. Like I was, I covered the Blues for 21 years now, many of those at the Post-Dispatch, many of those on the team plane sitting across the aisle from Kelly Chase. So you're getting off the plane, on the bus, going to the hotel, you're in the hall, and he's constantly on the phone. If you're walking around him and you can hear the phone call, he's saying, well, let's do this. Let's help this guy. He's going to fix that. He's going to fix this. So that's the type of guy he is. And the other thing I saw being on the road, Donnie, is he knows everybody, like everybody.
It seems that way.
Like you could put together Wikipedia list of NHL coaches right now, and he probably has a relationship with like 98% of it. And so we would go on the road. I'll never forget this. And we're all, where's the stat packet? Where's the media room? I need to go in there and get the stat packet, see who's leading the league in goals and, who's doing that. And then we would be sitting in the lower bowl with our stat packets, getting ready for the game. And we'd look down on the visiting bench, and there's Kelly Chase and the head coach of the other team just talking,
chopping it up
15 minutes. And then Kelly would, get back on the bus and we'd head back to the hotel, and we're over here going, yeah. And Duchesne's got 8 goals, stuff like that. And he has 3 stories about not only the Blues, but the other team as well that he's getting ready to carry into the broadcast that night. So it's just that personality, and, people just gravitate to him.
And on top of that, like he had a line at the ceremony, and, it just speaks to who Kelly Chase is. And I guess he was talking about a conversation he had with either Garth Brooks or Garth Butcher, but he said, it's not that damn hard to be nice to somebody. And like I got to work with Chaser for 6 years as a booth assistant for Curbs and Chase, and then when I was working at KMOX with Curbs and Chase. So I only got a little sample of getting to be around Kelly Chase in that work environment, but 6 years with him, he treats me like I've been around him for 20 years. Like I'll never forget, I did an interview with him right before my first daughter was born, and he probably spent 10 minutes with me before we even talked about the interview about me having my first daughter and what it was going to mean. And he gave me an idea that my wife and I still do to this day of writing a handwritten letter to our daughters for every moment that is big in their lives. So baptism, birthdays, and we still are doing that with all 3 of our girls. And he's like, yeah, you give them to them when they get married and they're going to love it. So like, that's who Kelly Chase is. And it was that line that resonated for me. It's not that hard to be nice.
It's not. And it shouldn't be a surprise that Kelly Chase and Garth Brooks are friends.
No.
Because that's Garth's reputation too. And just a quick one from the other night. And when I say this, it's going to come out goofy, but so the ceremony's over. Everybody's dispersing. And as I'm walking through the lobby and getting ready to walk out the doors of the Missouri Athletic Club, guess who's 10 feet in front of me, walking out the doors? Garth Brooks.
Willie Nelson. Oh, damn.
Garth Brooks. And he holds the door open, turns around, looks at me and said, and I'm just a stranger. He goes, you coming? And I said, yep. And so I picked up my step a little bit, and he held the door for 5 seconds, and
that's
I
amazing.
walked out. And it was right after like Kelly saying, what does it take to be, good
it's
to
not
people?
that hard to be nice.
Yeah.
If Garth Brooks can do that, anybody can do that.
I did not know that this might get a little emotional.
Get dusty in here?
All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. More with the Last Minute Blues podcast just a second. All right, so guys, obviously, I was looking at the standings the other day.
No, don't do that to yourself, buddy.
When he says, and so I was going to collaborate and listen. Ice is back with the band.
Dude, I will never forget Greg Depp getting to go to see Vanilla Ice at the American Theater when I was in 8th grade, and me not getting to go, and I was so jealous. Dude, he wore a tour T-shirt the next day and had the Vanilla Ice haircut. Damn it, man.
If we can get one concert that we all go to, Vanilla Ice and Cisco. Ice Ice Baby and the Thong Song.
Let's
What
just
a concert. Am I right?
No, you're not.
Oh, come on. Maybe Lou Bega's Mambo number 5?
Not even at all. All right, so I'm looking here at the standings, and obviously things are not well overall for the Blues in that regard. But guys, I watched the game last night. You listened to the game last night, and you see the Snuggaroos and the Dvorskys and the Hofers, and I'm not trying to be a total homer here, but there are so many reasons to be excited. If you're a Blues fan, you're just going to have to kind of temper the excitement for a bit, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is that patience word that people in St. Louis have kind of grown sick of because of the Cardinals. But, man, the hard part with that Carolina Hurricanes victory is you see that, but you can't believe it, right? Because, like, the moment they do that, then the next game, the opposite happens. And so that's what this has been this season. But for the last month now, it feels like I've been diverting my eyes to another area and watching some of these younger pieces, and especially coming off of that Hall of Fame ceremony. You wanted to see what they looked like after hearing all of those stories. That game, the best players on the ice were Snuggerud, Stenberg, Dvorsky, Kyrou, and Joel Hofer, along with Tyler Tucker. Like, all of these guys are that new core that are going to be taking over for the Blues. And how massive of a game was that, where you don't have Robert Thomas against one of the best offensive teams in the National Hockey League, and Dalibor Dvorsky was your second-line center, and you got a shutout. Also, he scored a goal in front of the net. Like, to me, seeing those guys continue to develop, because Joey has mentioned it, this is the hardest portion of the season. Games 40 through 60, they suck because you're worn down, your body hurts. It's the middle of the season where nothing's going well. Now imagine being the third worst team in the National Hockey League. For some of these guys, getting a taste of a full 82-game schedule, this is not easy. So seeing them perform now does give you some excitement. I don't think these guys are going to be all-stars. I don't think these guys are going to be superstars in the NHL, but they're players that can win you hockey games, and I think you saw that against the Hurricanes.
Yeah, the key stat was not 3-0 Blues last night. The key stat was Jim Montgomery saying that was Dalibor Tversky's best 200-foot game.
Yeah.
The key stat was Jimmy Snuggerud scoring a goal. The key stat was Joel Hofer.
Stenberg, a penalty kill assist on a shorthanded goal.
Yep. I mean, and I hate to keep saying, in 2 years, but in 2 years, that's what will matter.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think, excuse me, as we're, looking at this team going forward, we just absolutely have to keep that in mind, as painful as that might be at times. Over the course of the last couple of days, Logan Mailloux signs a 1-year extension. Can we talk about that? Why is that something that is done in the first place? I assume that he's under team control for a little bit as well. Can you kind of talk about the situation there?
He had RFA status, if I'm not mistaken, after this year. So he was the Blues' control no matter what. But I think that was probably just getting some of the off-season duties out of the way early, to where it's like, look, he wants to be here. He's going to be here. It's not been the best season for Mailloux, but I also wonder if this was just a confidence thing, of where Mailloux's not sitting there wondering, it's like, man, I'm bad on this team. What's going to happen? Team looked at him and said, you're continuing to develop. Jim Montgomery said before that Hurricanes game that Mailloux had played the best game they think they have seen this season against Vegas, because he was playing a lot more minutes and he was getting more consistent stretches on the ice. So you sign him to a contract extension, and it's, hey, look, this has been a rough season for all of us. It's not a reflection on you. You're still developing. Go out there. You're under contract. We expect you to be a top 4 defenseman. Keep developing.
Yep. They said it.
Well, and also, too, just real quick, how do you guys think that he is developing?
I think he's been better than what we saw in the first stretch before he went to the AHL. I just think there are still hiccups. I think offensively, he looks very comfortable. Like, he's generating chances when the puck's on his stick. I just think there's still that learning curve of figuring out the defensive side of the game. But like, look at Philip Broberg, for example. We're talking about how elite he is, and I'm sure we'll talk about his extension, but last season was his first full season in the NHL. He had spent 3 other seasons going up and down with the Edmonton Oilers. And I know Doug Armstrong talked about how the Edmonton Oilers had a hand in developing him. That's 5 years later that the Blues have gotten to this point with a guy who was a 6th overall pick. So it's going to take some time, but Mailloux looks like he understands the game now, and now it's just cleaning up some of the simple mistakes that happen in game.
Yeah, and the only thing to add is that this is not the best environment right now to be trying to gain some confidence and develop. It just isn't. So, not that you can't learn from it, grow from it, things like that. But, I think Mailloux has gotten better. But at the end of the year, you're just going to look at the whole year as kind of a development year and hope that things can be better team-wise, after this season, and that growth can continue to go.
I really thought that Broberg's extension was going to be in the $8-9 million a year.
I thought it was going to be in the $10 million
I said 11 prediction.
Yeah.
I didn't. I thought we were talking double digits.
Well, so what did it settle at? It was
$8 million.
6 by 8.
Yeah.
Which to me, even right now, seems like a steal.
It is, I think, a steal. It's reasonable, but you had Lane Hudson, he was 8.75, I think it was. So the only thing is, if people see the 8 and they say, wait a minute, I thought it could be 9, 10, 11, you have to keep in mind that it's like a sliding scale with the term and the money. So it's kind of like getting into college and they use your GPA and your ACT. So your ACT needs to be this if your GPA is this, and vice versa. So it's kind of like that with Mr. Analogy with the term.
Yeah, we're using GPA on me too.
Because if he does sign for 8 years, then it's going to be higher, because you're eating 2 more years of his prime years at unrestricted free agency. So that's why they kind of settled in the middle at 6 years, because that gets the number to 8. Broberg's happy because, he didn't want to go to 8. He was thinking 4, and then he settled for 6. And so it's just kind of a situation, what works for both sides. and what worked was 6 years, and then that's kind of what determines, okay, $8 million.
All right, here, I want to do this real quick. Oh, no.
I was just going to say, was it Broberg that wanted 4 years, or was it Broberg's agent that wanted 4 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was, I say Broberg's camp, because
they just made it seem like Broberg wanted to be here.
Yeah, he did. And so it sounds bad when you say he didn't want 8. That's not necessarily the case. When I spoke to his agent, Darren Ferris, he said Broberg was open to anything.
Yeah.
He said, we were thinking 4, they wanted 8.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of hard to decipher.
And I have to imagine an agent in that conversation is like, look, this is what's best for you.
Yep.
Because that's what the agent's doing, is looking out for his player. If we give you 8 years, I mean, we give you 4 years, you're going to be 28 years old. You're going to get a whole nother contract. And if Broberg's willing to be there for 6 years, you're still 30. You're still available to get a 7-year contract if you're playing to the level we expect you to. And with the cap going up, that's a whole nother pay raise that you're going to get.
Yeah, and give Broberg a ton of credit, even though we're saying that he took $8 million for 6 years and, it's reasonable. He could have dragged this out. And I guess the Blues could have too. But when I say he could have dragged it out, he could have not signed the contract. He could have elected for arbitration. A lot of times you elect for arbitration.
Yeah.
That relationship usually
sours quick.
Goes sour. And he could have played this out for another year or 2 years until he gets to unrestricted free agency, and then either sign with the Blues or left. But at that point, he could be a $12 million player. So that's only 2 years away. Now you've got him this year plus 6 more at $8 million. So he really did want to be here and kind of took less money.
And that's why, for me, hearing them say that, like Armstrong say that and Broberg say that, as bad as this season is, if I'm Broberg and I think this team is broken, the DNA's not getting fixed.
He's out. He's not signing.
Signed this contract. So he had to have believed in whatever message Doug Armstrong and Alexander Steen presented him of like, look, this is bad. It's not going to be bad. Here's why. And he said, cool, I'm in on this.
Real quick, I want to ask this question, and then I've got one way I want to end this. But an arbitration hearing is legitimately the player and the team telling in this arbitration all of the things that the player has not done to deserve the raise in which that they are asking for. And so it's just, whoa boy.
Yeah. And listen, this is a baseball example, not a hockey example. This is not a Blues player, but I was talking to somebody in the last year or two about MLB arbitration. And let's put it this way. The player was told, be versatile, play a bunch of positions. If you can be versatile, we'll really count on you and depend on you and need you. And then that player did that, succeeded, got to arbitration, and the team argued that he was a utility player. So that's what we're talking about.
I actually not personally, because I'm glad that it ended this way. I don't even know what your case is to be made on Philip Broberg when you go to an arbitration. Especially after this season. Like, what's your case?
Yeah, let's talk about the things he does well.
Philip, you know what? You didn't play great defense. Are you kidding me?
Did you see what else was going on?
We had the worst goal differential. I'm the only plus on this team. What?
Okay, real quick. I don't want to cut you guys off.
You get the contract done and you don't go to arbitration.
We have to take a real quick break, and then I want to come back, and as a fan, I want to ask you a question, and I think, unfortunately, you guys are going to have to deliver a little tiny dose of reality to Blues fans very quickly. We'll be back. Final quick segment of the Last Minute Blues podcast. All right, so last week, the day after, I think it was the day of Broberg signing that deal, the Blues play Vegas, and that absolutely atrocious caveman of a human being, Mark Stone, took out Philip Broberg. Now, what you guys are going to tell me is that this was just Mark Stone delivering a hit on Philip Broberg, and that it's just how Mark Stone plays, and that there was nothing inherently dirty about what he did, and that all of us that think that it's dirty, we're making it up in our minds, okay? That's what you're going to say, and I'm going to disagree with you because I believe that son of a bitch knew exactly what he was doing on the day that Broberg signed the frigging deal. I hate that guy so much. I honestly believe that part of his game is hurting players. Why is that okay?
Wait, I just thought of this. Didn't cavemen throw stones?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about that? So maybe he was a caveman.
What I was going to say was Donnie doesn't like the cover pictures being him on the podcast on YouTube. When you do that, man, there's no stopping it.
It's impossible not to. But I'm sorry, and I know that we got to wind up here, guys. But can you speak to that? And again, I respect you guys' opinion a lot. And if you don't think it's dirty, then maybe it wasn't. But man, just the timing of it all and the way that knuckle dragger operates, I just, honest to God, like I just cannot believe that it was not at least part on purpose.
So this might surprise you. I somewhat agree with you. I the moment it happened, I'm like, man, that's a slew foot. And then it's like, okay, I watched the replay a couple of times. It's not PK Subban's slew foot. Like, he didn't go out there and just kick his foot out from underneath him. But man, if you watch it, and I was texting with 3 other players who played in the NHL who have gone through things like this. When you watch it, you knew exactly what he was doing. He went in, he checked Philip Broberg. He had him pinned against the board. Watch his back leg. His back leg comes in and kind of kicks at Broberg's one leg that's keeping him balanced. So I'm not saying he went over there to definitively take him to the ice and have him hit his head. I think he was just trying to throw a body check and knock him down so he got hurt. And it was unfortunate that he lost his balance and his head hit the ice. But you cannot tell me that Mark Stone did not know what he was doing. The other factor in all of this is it's not like this is a guy who has a clean slate behind him.
Absolutely.
Like, the first thing I thought of was the Stone hit on Tyler Bozak. Now, different circumstance, but not a clean play, who got suspended on that play. So I saw it and I'm like, yeah, that's a dirty play. And it's not because of Broberg got hurt. It's just because of the circumstance. Broberg did not have his balance. He was pinned against the board, and you see Stone's foot kind of slide in there on Broberg, and then Broberg hits the ice.
Stretch out, slide.
Slide.
Hey, and when we were walking in the locker room last night, Broberg was walking out. He's got a pretty good gash on his head.
Does he really?
From his helmet.
He was bleeding pretty hard.
Yeah, it's a pretty good gash right there on the forehead. I think both of you guys are wrong. I think no.
Yeah, see, we're cavemen, Donnie. We're the knuckle draggers over here.
No, I agreed with how Jim Montgomery saw it. And so to hit the bullet points here, I think that he did know what he was doing, Mark Stone. These guys know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't not know. Secondly, Jim Montgomery said that, was it malicious? No, but was it unnecessary? Yes.
Yeah.
So I think he did something that was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it warranted, supplemental discipline. I talked to NHL player safety.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And they felt that it didn't. So, but it's Mark Stone. He's done it before. He knows what he's doing, and it was unnecessary. So I think it shouldn't have happened.
I just want to, at one point, be able to do my damnedest to chirp that guy from the start of the game to the end of the game. And I'm sure that it wouldn't affect him. He seems like a guy that, one, probably wouldn't understand much of the things in which that I'm saying, but also, two, he just wouldn't sort of care. But I would love just the opportunity to just start in warm-ups and go the whole game.
Well, I think you're going to get your opportunity, because as you were going, I was thinking this is going to get clipped off and played on sports radio in Vegas.
Yeah.
Stone's going to be driving down there. They're going to go, hey, we're going to go to a podcast in St. Louis.
Donnie Fandango on the Last Minute Blues podcast. That knuckle dragger.
You know what, Mark, if you would like to reach out to me and we can have this conversation at Fandango 1057 across the board on the socials. And again, you know what? Part of that is the fan in me, but I just don't like that dude. I don't like any freaking part of that guy.
I actually thought you would have been a lot more, not positive, but Shen ragdolled him.
Yeah.
I mean, Shen ripped his jersey.
That's fine, but I just don't like this dude doing this sort of thing, not only to our guys, but across the league. And like those Vegas fans, like they friggin' build this guy up like he's a good one. And maybe he is a good player. He could still be that good player and not be a dirty son of a bitch.
Hey, and speaking of the Shen fight, did you guys see this? And when I saw it, I'm like, oh my God. People were saying that Mark Stone didn't fight as hard as he could have because he knew that he deserved it because for what he did. Okay, in what world do you get in a fight and you go, I'm gonna
50%.
I'm gonna turn my cheek here. Like,
That's dumb.
I got Braden Shen coming at me, who's just got this mean face. I deserve this one. Go ahead, Shen, hit me.
Like, if we haven't seen that Braden Shen can fight, like, what have we seen?
No, I will say, though, that Mark Stone possum, the moment Shen got a hold of him, was just, he's just like, oh, God, stop.
I'm going to turn my cheek so I can get hit again because I think I deserve this.
Another one.
Well, listen, we got to wrap this up. We have radio stations to be on, articles to write. There's just a lot going on this
Babies
Wednesday.
to kiss.
Well, maybe not that particular part.
I do it.
You do. Yeah, you do. All right. So for our fantastic sponsor, Last Minute Blues podcast is brought to you by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters, your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. Live from the Jeff Burton Studios, it is the Last Minute Blues podcast. For Alex Ferrario, Jeremy Rutherford, I'm Donnie Fandango. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching, and let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast on 101 ESPN
is presented by Blue Note Roofing, roofing, siding, and gutters, your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for free inspection.